It all started with a knock on my door and a notice taped to my boat. I live in a neighborhood with a homeowners association. You know, the kind that loves rules, regulations, and power trips. But even for them, this was wild. Without asking, without warning, they tried to have my boat towed from the slip I've had for years. No permission, no conversation, just bold action like they owned the place. The thing is, they didn't. And that was their first mistake. I've always played by the rules, kept things respectful. But this time, something snapped. I had worked hard to keep that boat. It wasn't just a weekend toy. It was a part of my life, a symbol of everything I've built. So when the HOA decided they could just move it like some forgotten lawn ornament, I decided to do something they never saw coming. That's when I started making calls, digging around. Turns out, the marina they've been using, the one where my boat sits and where HOA members love to fish on weekends, wasn't even fully under their control. Long story short, an opportunity popped up, and I took it. Within a few weeks, I was the new owner of the marina. Just like that. The same marina they tried to kick me out of. Now, let me be clear, I didn't do it out of revenge. But I did make a point. No one gets to push people around and expect silence in return. So, I made a few changes, set some new rules, and let's just say the HOA's weekend fishing trips? They didn't last long. But that's not even the wildest part. Because what happened next, after the eviction notices went out, really changed everything. After the eviction notices went out, things got real quiet. Too quiet. I expected pushback from the HOA, maybe an email, a phone call, someone trying to reason with me. But instead, it felt like the calm before a storm. I started noticing people driving by the marina slowly, windows rolled down, just watching. A few of the HOA board members even showed up, pretending to check on things. One of them, Greg, the guy who originally pushed for my boat to be relocated, had the nerve to act surprised. Here's the thing most people don't realize. HOAs aren't some government agency. They're just neighbors with a little power, and sometimes that power gets to their heads. Greg had always acted like he ran the whole community, always quick with a fine or a warning letter, like he got some thrill out of controlling people. He thought the marina was just another place he could manage. But when he found out I now owned it, his whole tone shifted. What made things even more interesting was that the HOA had actually been using parts of the marina for years without the proper lease in place. It was just one of those things no one questioned. Until I did. I started going through old documents, and the more I found, the messier it got. Unpaid fees, unauthorized gatherings, even some questionable maintenance records. It wasn't just about my boat anymore. This was turning into something bigger. But I didn't go public with any of it. Not yet. I wanted to see how they'd react now that the power dynamic had shifted. And sure enough, things started bubbling under the surface. Whispers in the neighborhood, subtle jabs at HOA meetings, and one anonymous note left on my truck windshield. That's when I realized this wasn't just a property issue anymore. It was personal. The note on my windshield wasn't threatening, but it was clear. You're making a mistake. No name, no explanation. Just that sentence scribbled on a scrap of paper. I laughed it off at first, but the timing felt too perfect. The same week I started questioning the HOA's marina use and enforcing basic rules like proper registration for boat slips, someone was already trying to warn me off. Or maybe it was a warning to back down. I wasn't looking for a war, all I wanted was to be treated fairly. But every step I took toward cleaning things up at the marina seemed to rattle the HOA more. I heard from a few neighbors that the board was holding unofficial meetings without informing all members, something that's against their own bylaws. A couple of them even approached me quietly, saying they didn't agree with how things were being handled, but they didn't want to be seen as going against the board. That said a lot. Meanwhile, the fishing club, a group mostly made up of HOA regulars, started pushing back. They claimed I was being unreasonable for asking them to follow rules that had never been enforced before. One guy even accused me of ruining the community spirit. But wasn't it them who tried to tow my boat without saying a word? Suddenly, I was the villain for standing up for myself. And then there was the financial side. Turns out, the HOA had been collecting dues partly to maintain Marina access, even though they weren't paying a lease or handling any real upkeep. Once I started making improvements myself, fixing the dock lights, cleaning the walkways, installing a security camera, some residents began questioning where their HOA fees were really going. That's when things started to shift. Quiet support turned into cautious curiosity, but with every new detail I uncovered, I felt like I was digging into something deeper than just property lines and fishing rights. Something the board didn't want exposed. Things really started heating up when I got a certified letter from the HOA's attorney. It was full of legal jargon, but the message was clear. They were accusing me of interfering with community access and violating long-standing verbal agreements. That part made me laugh. Verbal agreements? Really? The same group that went behind my back to relocate my boat was now suddenly all about understandings and tradition. But this wasn't just about letters anymore. One morning, I pulled into the marina and found the gate lock had been cut clean through. Someone had forced their way in. A few of the fishing club guys were already out on the dock, acting like nothing had happened. When I asked how they got in, one of them shrugged and said, "It's a community space, right?" That moment stuck with me. It was bold, like they believed they still controlled the space, no matter what the paperwork said. I replaced the lock and added a security camera right over the entrance. Not long after, the footage caught someone late at night tampering with the lights I had just installed. The face wasn't clear, but the truck in the background looked familiar. Real familiar. That same truck had been parked outside Greg's house 100 times. I didn't say anything right away. I wanted to see how far they were willing to go. Meanwhile, I kept digging. More documents, more missing payments, and then a name I didn't expect. Turns out Greg's brother owned the landscaping company that had been billing the HOA for marina upkeep. But no one had ever seen his crew down there. No maintenance, logs, no equipment receipts, just invoices and quiet approval. As I pieced it all together, it felt like the marina wasn't just a dock and some boats anymore. It had become the center of something bigger. Power, money, and control were all tangled up in it. And just when I thought I had a handle on it, I got a call from someone on the board. Someone who wanted to meet in secret. That's when I knew. This wasn't close to being over. The board member who called me was someone I barely knew, Karen. She usually kept to herself during HOA meetings, rarely spoke unless someone asked her directly. So when she said she needed to talk off the record, I knew something was up. We met at a small coffee shop outside the neighborhood, and she looked nervous, constantly checking over her shoulder like she was being followed. She didn't waste time. She told me that some of the HOA board had been funneling maintenance funds through shell companies, and the marina was just the tip of it. According to her, the same landscaping company owned by Greg's brother was also linked to two other vendors billing the HOA for consulting and inspections that never actually happened. Karen said she tried to bring it up quietly, but every time she did, she got shut down or ignored. She finally reached out to me because I was the only one pushing back hard enough to shake things loose. That changed everything. It wasn't just about my boat or the fishing club anymore. Now we were talking possible financial misconduct, and the marina was sitting right in the middle of it. I asked her why she was coming forward now, and she just said, "Because I think they're going to try something bigger, and I don't want to be part of it." That same night, I got home to find my mailbox open and papers scattered. Nothing major was missing, but it felt like a message. Messy enough to rattle me, quiet enough to deny. Then, around midnight, I got a call from an unknown number. No one spoke on the other end, but I could hear the faint sound of waves and someone breathing. The stakes were higher now. I wasn't just dealing with a group of neighbors who didn't like change. I was standing between them and something they didn't want exposed. And with Karen now involved, I had to decide. Bring everything into the open, or wait and see just how far they were willing to go. I decided I couldn't wait any longer. With Karen's help, I pulled together everything. Copies of invoices, Marina maintenance records, security footage, and a written statement from Karen outlining what she knew. I wasn't sure where it would all land, but I knew one thing. I had to take it to the full HOA membership. Not just the board, everyone. So I did something bold. I used my Marina ownership to host an open community meeting, invited every homeowner, posted the agenda, and promised full transparency. At first, people showed up out of curiosity, but once the documents hit the projector screen and Karen started talking, the mood shifted fast. Gasps, whispers, crossed arms. Greg didn't show,